Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today we're going to be doing it. If you like this, try this. I don't think it's really a tag, just a general. And it's mostly adult fantasy, but a few like YAs have snuck their way in there. So I did this video a while ago and I really enjoyed doing it, and I just thought it's such a fun idea because like if you like a certain kind of book, then there's a good chance you might like another kind of book, and yeah, it's just fun. So I also want to hype up some of my new favourites. So yes, so let's just get into it. First one I'm going to talk about is, well, one of the books I don't really like, but I feel like if you like this one, because a lot of people do, then you might like this other series. So that is The Name of the Wind. So The Name of the Wind is not my favourite book, but I can still see it's like the things it does well. I was trying to think of the opposite of flaws then, I couldn't. And then, so if you like this one, you might like The Rune of Kings by Jen Lyons. So I recently become this series #1 fan and I just love it so much. I just got A Memory of Souls, which is the new one, and yes, it's now like one of my favourite series. The reason I think you'd like this one, if you like The Name of the Wind, is the way it's told. So in The Name of the Wind, we're following Kvothe, and he is telling his story to a travelling, like, it's not a bard, I don't think, just a travelling kind of person who writes stories, like a chronicler, that's it, that's the word. So he's telling his story to a chronicler, and it's just him telling his life story basically. And then in this one we're following Kieran, who is in a jail cell at the beginning of the book, and he's telling a story to his like jailer person called Talon. And they're both following them like growing up, and I can see the parallels between their like storylines, because Kieran kind of starts he like loses everything, and then he has to go and make his own way in the city, and then sort of goes to like magic school. And then this one, like, Kieran is he like loses all his family, and then he has to try and struggle through, and then he just gets up to loads of shenanigans. I love Kieran, he's such a funny character. He's a bit of a dumbass, but I love him anyway. And I think we're kind of following him in two timelines. So in the first one, I'll put this one up. In the first one, he is in the city. He's currently living with his like foster father and in like a brothel, and he does the like harp playing. And then in the second timeline, he is older and he's being sold as a slave, and he's bought by this Black Dagger Brotherhood, who then kind of take him away to this like magical island. But yeah, it's really fun, and it's just it's like really epic fantasy, but also it'll kind of make you smile. So yeah, I just really love this series. So yes. And the next one is a book that I haven't actually read. Actually, I have read it. I read it when I was about 14. Why? But I haven't ever continued with the series, and that is A Song of Ice and Fire. But I have watched all the Game of Thrones, well, except from like the last couple of episodes, but we won't talk about that. So I have watched all this TV show, and that's, yeah, so Song of Ice and Fire. And if you like that, you will probably like Malice by John Gwynne. So this series is called The Faithful and the Fallen. I just hold this up. So this one is very similar to Game of Thrones in that it's kind of this big like epic tale, and like you're following different characters, and you're following kind of different like sides of the conflict. So you're following some kind of good characters and some kind of bad characters, and some kind of characters that you don't really know what they are. And we have our hero Corbin. He's such a sweetheart, especially in the first one, but he is very much a kind of Jon Snow character. And yeah, just kind of watching him grow up and like come into his own sort of leadership. And then he befriends this pup, like she's called Storm. I don't know if it's a wolfhound. I think that's the term used in this one. And then I can't remember what they're called in Game of Thrones, but it's very similar, and they have this like bond, and oh, he's so sweet. And yeah, and it's just kind of like prophecy, and the gods are coming to war, and it's very like super epic. That's the only word I can think of. And actually this first one, Malice, it's really wholesome for like a dark, gritty fantasy, but that's the best way I can describe it. Like it's very much like dark, and there's a lot of like war and fighting. Like if you like your kind of swords and fighting, then you'll probably love this series. But yeah, it's just, I feel like the characters just kind of worm their way into your heart, so it's really nice. So yeah, I'd highly recommend this one. So then next, this comparison is a little bit of a stretch. Just be honest, Katie. Yeah, so, and that is the Poppy War. So if you like the Poppy War, you might like The Wolf of Orenyaro by K.S. Veloso. So the reason I'm doing this comparison is because, so Rin in the Poppy War, who's the main character, and she's very much a character who is kind of, she's very driven and wants to succeed, but she's also sort of been pinholed into this role that society has made for her. And sometimes she sort of kind of not rages against that, but she sort of almost loses her way because of that. And then the main character Talion in this book, although she's quite different from Rin, like in terms of, well, age, partly because she's a lot older, and sort of position because she's the queen. I think she has a similar kind of thing that like society has kind of made her into this figure, and that is sort of causing a lot of internal conflict for her. And I think, yeah, so I think if you like the character of Rin, you really like the character of Talion. And yeah, they're kind of quite different in plot, because the Poppy War sort of follows a magical school and then a war, and then this one we're kind of following Talion, and she goes to the city to try and meet with her husband who sort of ran away and leaving her to rule the kingdom by herself, and has to kind of make this fierce reputation for herself. And then she goes to the city and she like gets completely lost, and then she has to try and kind of manage her way back to where she was, and there's just all this like political drama going on. And yeah, there's quite a lot of political drama in this one, as is in the Poppy War. So yeah, I think if you like one, you'll definitely kind of like the other. And I feel like the Poppy War is getting so much hype recently, which is so good, because it definitely deserves it, like 100%. But I feel like this one's still quite underrated, so yeah, I feel like it deserves a bit more love. So yeah, that's that one. Okay, then the next one is, if you like, because I feel like most people watching my channel maybe probably like Sanderson. So if you like Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, then you might like The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. So the reason I've kind of compared these two is because they both kind of feature like a court of gods. And in Warbreaker, you kind of have the God King as like the main figure, and then you have these like gods who sort of, they have a role. So like the god of honor, or the god of music, or I'm just making these up, I don't know, I can't remember what light song is. Oh, the god of bravery, I think he is, yeah. And then in the 100,000 Kingdoms, you kind of have these three kind of main gods who have kind of, they're quite mysterious, and then there's these kind of more like demigods, so the children of the gods. They're still kind of gods, but anyway, who kind of live in this palace with the kind of ruling family. And then you have the main character Yen, who kind of interacts with these gods, and then there's this like night god thing. So if you like the idea of like this kind of god king, I don't know, well, Nahadon, who's the sort of god, night god, god king thing in the 100,000 Kingdoms, is nothing like Sir Sevron, because Sir Sevron, who is the god king, is just, yeah. But Nahadon is really like, he's kind of that like, what you kind of, I don't know, like the Darkling or something. He's very like charming, and I don't know. I'm not getting my words out today, but yeah, so he's quite different from Sir Sevron, but he's like a different take on that trope, and I think that's quite good. And yeah, they're definitely quite similar in terms of like court politics and just kind of general like intrigue. And they're both quite kind of slow books, but there's a focus on sort of romance and politics, and I just really like that in a book. And I think if you like one, you'll like the other. So yeah. So the next you have, if you like Illuminate, then you might like Do You Dream of Terror 2 by Temi O. So I recently read Do You Dream of Terror 2 in like July, I think, and I really love this one. It's so interesting. I don't know if it's YA or adult. I feel like it leans more towards YA, because well, the characters are quite young. So if you like kind of teenagers in space having to like fend for themselves and save the whole ship, then that's kind of where the comparison comes from. Because these teenagers are like having to kind of deal with, because in Do You Dream of Terror 2, the 7 teenagers get, is it 7 or 5? No, I feel like it's meant to be 6, but then something happens to one of them, so then it's 5 who actually end up in space. And then, yeah, so they get sent into space to go, and they're going to this other planet called Terra 2, which humans are trying to like colonize. It's quite a stereotypical sci-fi thing, but then So yeah, so these 5, they're quite young, they're like 17, 18. They've been trained their whole lives. They've gone to this like academy where they've been prepared to be astronauts, and then they get sent. And it's just, it very much looks at kind of the psychological impact of being in space, and then the sort of how you deal with like a small crew in like a confined environment. And then as the novel progresses, it gets more like dramatic, and you get all the sci-fi like space stuff, not space battles, but like fighting against space itself. And I feel like in Illuminate there's quite a bit of like space kind of battles, which I think is quite cool. So yeah, if you like, I feel like they're both good beginner sci-fis as well if you're looking to get more into sci-fi. Unfortunately, Daydream of Terror 2 doesn't have like an AI like Aiden, but I feel like you don't really miss it because the characters are like so rich, and they all have such different kind of stories and backgrounds. And I think it also looks really well at, I'll put that one down, kind of mental illness and the impact that would have if you got sent to space, like how it would affect those. And also, because I have to mention this, I was really impressed with the medical knowledge in this book. I love it when, especially in sci-fi books, when there's like a medical scenario like in space, because I just find that so interesting. And also something I really find interesting is I haven't really read a book featuring this, so if you know one then let me know. But like kind of biology and microbiology in sort of around like space travel and astronomy. Like, so I remember reading an article once on like how some people, it's like some people's job to just consider like microbes in space, and how if like I guess alien microbes, if they were like coming back on a rocket, and how that would impact the world and our world. And just, yeah, I just find that so interesting. I don't know if that even made sense, but you know. So yeah, anyway, so it was like this emergency scenario in space, and they were doing the like A to E stuff, and that's like emergency assessment, and it was good to read. So I feel like I might have done this one in my other one, but I feel like this is like the classic comparison, so I had to include it. And that is, if you like Six of Crows, I've got a very shiny one, then you might like The Lies of Locke Lamora. So I feel like if you're just looking, if you read a lot of YA fantasy and you're looking to get into a bit more adult fantasy, I feel like The Lies of Locke Lamora is quite a good place to start. It's maybe not the best place to start because it does take a while to get into, and I think there's some like the flashbacks might be a bit jarring. But Locke and Jean, the two main characters, they're so charming and so easy to love. And the reason I'm comparing these two is because of the settings. They're very similar. Like, I would say this one's kind of Venetian inspired and this one's more like Amsterdam inspired. But they're kind of like the kind of city set on the water. It's very kind of dark and like gritty, and just kind of that sort of like crime city, I don't know. And they both follow kind of crews. So this one they're going on a heist, and then I can't actually remember what they're doing in Lies of Locke Lamora. They're trying to con people out of their money in some way, shape or form. And that might be in the second book. I feel like they're doing it in this book too. But anyway, so yeah, and just the kind of character interactions. There's just this like little gang of misfits trying to like do crime. And I just think it's great. And the kind of dialogue in both these books I think is fantastic. Like the banter between characters. So that's probably like the highlight of both these books. So yeah, if you're looking to get more into adult fantasy, then I would, and you love Six of Crows, then The Lies of Locke Lamora would be a good place to start. And I feel like it's not too long. It's like 500-ish pages. So you can be slowly wheedled in. Yeah, so that's that one. So then next we have If You Like Jade City, which I'm very pleased Jade City is getting more hype recently. I feel like everyone's now reading it, and it's so exciting. I don't know, that was just a little mini freak out because it's just very exciting to me, because like when I read it in January there was like hardly anyone who'd read it, and like there was no fan art, and now we're getting so much fan art, and it's so good. So yeah, I really need to reread this series because, well, like Rue was reading it recently and she was like all the updates she was sending, and I had no idea what she meant. Well, no, I did have a vague idea what she meant, but I just couldn't remember the like specific scenes. I think just like really specific scenes like stand out in my head. And then, okay, this is a side story tangent, but it's quite funny. So there's a scene in Jade War which is a very dramatic scene, and because I was trying to be vague and not spoilery, I said, have you got to the car scene yet? Because it involves a car. So, and then I've said this to at least like 3 different people. And then on the 3rd time of saying this, I think it was to Rue, I realised that there's actually 2 car scenes in Jade City, and one of them is one of the characters getting a blowjob. So I don't know if people thought I was asking them if they got to that scene yet, when I meant a different scene. But anyway, so that was a tangent. I don't know, my brain's broken. So yes, so anyway, if you like Jade City, then you might like Sword of Kaigan. So these are quite different in terms of setting, because Jade City is set in like a city, and it's quite like almost modern feeling, or like kind of late 90s, not late 90s, late like 1900s type feeling. Whereas Sword of Kaigan, the way the world is set up is it's quite like a modern world, but they're on this peninsula that's kind of very like isolated from society, and they're quite sort of traditional in their beliefs, and they don't like technology or anything, so they kind of stay clear of that. I feel like they're just the kind of general, like, I don't know what it is about them, but they feel similar in a way. I don't know if it's the like soul destroying nature of them, but I think it might partly be the magic system, because although, so Sword of Kaigan, the magic system's kind of like water bending, and they can like summon these blades of ice, and they sort of have the different like families have different powers, and I think in Jade City as well, the kind of jade gives you power, and the families are kind of controlling the powers, and they have different powers. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of similar. I feel like sometimes you just get like a general impression that books, if you like one, you like the other. And I think they both kind of deal with some like heavier topics, and they both very much revolve around family. And so in Jade City, one of my favourite things about it is the family dynamics and like the sibling dynamics, especially between Shay and Hilo. I love their like relationship, and it's very like tumultuous, but it's really good. And then yeah, and then in kind of Sword of Kaigan, we have like Misaki and Takeru, who are kind of, they're married but like quite unhappily, but then you get more understanding of them as the novel goes on. And yeah, it's just a great ride. So yeah, if you like one, you'll probably like the other. And then finally, because it's getting like autumny now and wintry, I am going to do another one of these videos actually in October. I have like a spooky edition planned. But this one's like more atmospheric, just like general autumn. So that is, if you like Strange the Dreamer, then you might like The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So the reason I'm comparing these two is because they're both very kind of lyrical books. They're both quite like slow and just kind of atmospheric. Yeah, I would say the atmosphere is like the strongest part, and you're just kind of following the character, like living their lives and making some discoveries and just sort of existing. And yeah, just the atmosphere. Like this one will make you feel like you're in a like snowy Russia in the 1800s? I feel like that's when it takes place. But yeah, and this is another one where if you like Strange the Dreamer and you're looking to get more into adult fantasy, you might like The Bear and the Nightingale. I feel like this series was one of the first kind of adulty fantasies that I read. So yeah, like Vasaro is such a good, easy main character to root for, and yeah, they're both kind of slow paced, but just that like kind of beautiful lyrical writing, I feel like, is the kind of strength of both of them. So yeah, so that's that one. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun filming this, and I would love if you could leave a comment just about anything. Tell me how your day has been, or anything in the video. I like getting comments and replying to them. I'm trying to be better at replying to comments. I feel like I try to reply to every comment, but sometimes I'm a bit slow. Yeah, just bear with me. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you next time.